see if it works. Can everybody hear me? I don't have a camera for some reason.
It didn't go on.
It says it did.
Okay, maybe you did. Now it shows up. Okay.
Yeah, but I don't have a camera. So I either can't have guests on Restream, or I can't have a camera on StreamYard. I'm having a lot of technical difficulties. So
You had a camera earlier.
not on StreamYard.
Oh.
Trying to figure it out, everybody. Yeah, camera. Here we go. Standard definition. No, no. Okay. I have to go into my regular settings and
I think, Dave, don't you have to pay extra for that one? Because I've only got like 200 or less than 200 people or whatever
Okay, I think it's gonna work with the external camera. So,
I'll come out of this chat. You can send me the link.
yeah, I'll send you the link. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody see me? I'll send you the link here, Ron. Then I gotta send everybody else the link. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I gotta send everybody the link, so everybody be patient with me just a few more minutes.
Hush!
Oh, it's so slow. It's finally working. Okay. All right, we got Jess waiting backstage, so
Hello.
hey Jess. Oh, man. Sometimes I can't stand technology.
But it's so much better. Technology is so much better, right?
Yeah, well, all this issue I was having, and then I restart my computer. It was slow, but it got everything reset. So
That's okay. You got a good crew of subscribers who are patient. So,
yeah, I thank everybody for being patient. Now I'm getting all these notifications telling me subscribe to this, subscribe to that. But I sent Ron the link, so hopefully, okay, there. Hey, Randy. Let's see. I sent the link to Mike also.
Randy has better hair than I do. Dang. I'm jealous.
All right.
Hell, he's got better hair than I do.
I know. Randy, what's your secret?
While we're waiting on everybody, I'm gonna do roll call. All right. Lisa, great to see you. Thanks for all y'all's patience. Sharon Guy, great to see you. Silver Bullet, Pink Pixie, Figgy, great to see you. Tim Wrestler, great to see you as always.
Radio check, can y'all hear me?
Hear ya.
Hi.
Yeah.
At least we got it working.
Yeah. Finally got it working.
I
I
thought
had
it was on my end. I was going into my camera settings, making sure everything had permissions, and I couldn't find anything wrong.
oh I know that's what I was saying to Ron. Is like I talked to the tech the other day, and he said there was nothing wrong. Now, if there's nothing wrong, why is everybody having a problem? Nobody can come onto my live, um, and then now mine was even messing up. So, and the tech was saying for Restream, he said everybody needs to try to log on through Google or through Chrome. I'm like, well, not everybody uses Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, it's just not compatible with some. Like, how about every single person that was using the link?
I've been hearing that lately, though, a lot with Restream, other people having issues with it.
Yeah, it's too bad because I really like their setup. But let's see.
Mike said his link is not working. What?
Did he click on the right one?
Yeah, did he click on the right one?
I just sent him the same one that I linked into.
Maybe that link glitched. Send them another one.
Yeah,
I've had glitch before, and
I'll send him another one.
my wife and I just got back from eating Mexican.
Ooh, I love Mexican food. What'd you have, Randy?
I had a steak burrito and a
Mm.
nachos.
Okay, that one says sent.
So he got it.
And this steak burrito is like this, like that long.
We've got Ron waiting backstage, so I'm gonna get through these names here. Clough, great to see you.
And we had leftovers. I brought some home. I couldn't eat it all.
Connor,
You know, that's probably one of the best leftovers, too. Sorry, Harold.
Since,
it's all
since
right.
I had children 3 times, I just can't eat a whole lot.
Clough, great to see you.
And we had leftovers. I brought some home. I couldn't eat it all.
Connor, give us a mic check.
Mike,
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're good. We're good. I had to recopy the link for some reason. I don't know. It's working though.
Dos Equis with the lime. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
hey, did you
say
Mike?
hi to
rain
everybody
today?
in chat, and we'll get this show going. Okay. Sorry everybody for the delay and all that, but it's great to see y'all. So tonight we're having Ron Cross. He's waiting backstage. Let's see. For those of you that don't know who Ron Cross is, I mean, I'm gonna let him introduce himself, but he is a parapsychologist. He's also been involved in the cryptid world, and he is a CERT, a member of CERT, which is someone who trains for medical rescue, actually. So, on that note, you guys have any questions?
Ready to rock.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring him up.
Well, good evening, everyone.
Hey, Ron.
Hello.
Good to hear from y'all. Go ahead, Harold.
Yeah, no, it's good to see you. I was just letting everybody know that you were coming up
Well, good.
to introduce yourself. So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
Okay, well, I'm Ron Cross. Everybody heard that. I've been in the paranormal field for probably 40 years at least. My first experience started when I was about 4, and I have a twin brother. He's had a lot of experience as well. Uh, both of us at the same time had the same experiences, which really led me into the paranormal world to dig. So when I was younger, I began to deal with a lot of books and take in information back in the 70s, believe it or not, and started watching a bunch of shows on parapsychology and ghosts and cryptids, whether it's vampires or some other creature. And so I began to buy all the books I could. And then about 16, I started going out in the field investigating mostly ghosts. And so I've got a big background in that. But you're right. I'm a CERT instructor with the state. CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team. So what I do there is I'm a CERT trainer with the state, and I go out and I teach people the CERT class on how to prepare for emergency situations, disasters, what you need on hand to live through that disaster. And a lot of times it's about 72 hours before the government's going to show up and say, we're here to help. And which these days, a lot of us know that that's not true. But anyways, so that's what I do as I teach. I also store spot with Logan County here in Oklahoma. I do their store spotting. Not only that, the siren test, something I do every month. I also do the ghost tours at Fort Reno here in Oklahoma. I've done that since about 2005, something like that, I think. So I got a lot of years at it. I got a very wide background. I was in the United States Army for a while. I investigated the Oklahoma City bombing and worked with the people on anti-terrorism and whatever. So if you have any questions, let me know. We can take it from there.
All right, that sounds great. Earlier today I was watching one of your videos from 2 years ago on what people do when they get certified. So I found it a pretty interesting video. Let's see. I got my notes here. Anybody have a question for Ron?
Not right now.
Not right now. All right. Okay.
Did you want me to tell about the cryptids and things that my brother and I experienced back in the day? And you wanted to talk somewhat about the little people and whatever. That was one of the questions you had. So I don't know if you want to start there.
Yeah. I was gonna say I remember the pictures that you sent me. I had those all ready to go on Restream.
Right.
But I didn't bring them up on here. There is one picture that I would like everybody to see. The one you showed me of the guest that's peeking into the window.
Yeah.
If you could tell us a little bit about your paranormal and cryptid background while I'm looking for that picture.
Well, if anybody wants to, they can go to my website, which is prosinvestigations.com. It's been up for about 20 years or more, and we've got a lot of research there. And when I say research, Tony was the one that took that picture. Tony Cummings, he was my site director. So Tony, I put him in charge of the site and to make sure the place was safe, things were up to par. So we had live cameras in there for 7 of those 10 years. We had live cameras, and we did investigations every weekend. And then on top of that, sometimes we do ghost tours at Fort Reno or there in Guthrie. And so Tony had a newer camera, and I think it cost, $800, $500. And what he did is he designed this platform. And it's his idea. I kind of helped with the design. But he had a regular camera, an RR camera, and one that's another spectrum camera, all spectrum camera. So each of those cameras would take a picture. So right there in the left of the pictures you're facing, that was Robert, and this is a 2-story window. And inside that window, there's a back glass, so it's probably 4 inches thick. So there's no way anybody would have climbed up there because there's no steps, no nothing, unless you have wings or hanging on a rope. And so we have 2 of those pictures, And we just were doing the walkthrough and taking the basic readings of the place and trying to measure EMF and cold spots and, just things going around that building that was going on. And typically we would have a recorder. And my background is really an audio video, also a ham radio operator. And so I've really looked into those things. But beforehand, we just had a tape recorder with us, and we capture a lot of disembodied voices. And so when you talk about these disembodied voices, a lot of people don't know, and I'm not trying to insult people, but you look at the people like Konstantin Radi and Jurgensen and George Meeks, and these are all people with a PhD that started looking at these disembodied voices that we're capturing, and some of those voices would be on inside of a Faraday cage, so there's no signal getting in. And so, we'd leave the recorder running, and sometimes we'd hear things like "get out" or whatever. And so at this point, we're stopping to check the gear, and I don't know, we stopped for a minute, and Tony wanted to take some pictures, and so he backs up from the group, and he starts taking pictures, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking at a piece of equipment, and we got that face. So we didn't know, and it wasn't until we got home, and we were doing this every weekend, unless the weather was bad. Yeah. And so here we are, and we're looking at that picture, and Tony found that, and he called me on the phone. He said, "Hey, Ron, we got something." I'm like, "Okay." We get a lot of things that are pareidolia and whatever, and we just have to discount it. Most of the orbs can be explained by either insects in the air flying due to their wings or dust particles in front of the camera. So when I see an orb picture, unless it's producing its own light, I've also got a background in audio video. So I'm like, it's probably an insect or dust particle or something like that. So we're just going to discard it. And so pros, our philosophy was simply this: is if in doubt, throw it out. And so we get a lot of things that some people would catch. And I could post you a picture later or send it to you where we got this entity or whatever, an image, and it seemed to be a woman in a shower with her hand up, and she has really long black hair, but it's an artifact produced by the camera. So we could duplicate it over and over. So we got this face in the picture, and Tony called me and he said, "Man, you're not going to believe this." So I see it, and I realize where we're at, the lights in the background and whatever. But as you saw that second picture, that head turns. And a lot of people, when we point this out, they would say, "Well, it's a Bigfoot, it's this, it's that." And I realize most of us here wear glasses, right? I just have to have readers so I can read. So I realized that audio, video, their computer may not be the best, pixelation, whatever. And so they may see something different. And so I realized that, but I'm looking at this picture. Tony sends it to me, and it's very clear. I also brought it to me, printed it out, and you can definitely see it's a face. It just depends on, I guess your eyes and whatever. So that was one of the few catches that we ever got in those 7 years by using a camera. And so most of our evidence came from the audio. And I was doing the audio tech. One of the persons I trained was working with the RIP files in England. Her name was Billy Stasler, and she was their EVP tech. And I had trained her for about 3 years. And before that, I'd worked with Dennis Houck, who's written books on the paranormal and also some other subjects. And he kind of mentored me along the way. So it never gave me free ins and outs about the paranormal. He would tell me how to look and where to look. And so I did the same thing. And I've been a professional trainer now. And of course, I'm retired now, but I had 52 locations in a 4-state area, so I'd have to train people. And so I realized people learn differently. And so we kind of took all that, and we all came from different backgrounds and came together to form the team. And we had a lot of experiences, and that was one of those nights we had some not outlandish experiences, but a pretty good experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we said we were going to talk about little people. Now, have you had any personal experiences with the so-called little people?
Yeah, one time at the grocery store, there's a midget. Just kidding. But yeah, I have, and I'll tell you this: we grew up with Indians, and some people might be offended by that word, but that's the word we use to describe us. And my dad was Cherokee, and so we lived in Comanche County here in Oklahoma, and there were Comanche, Kiowa, and Apache. So I knew a lot of those guys, and they would tell me things about some of the cryptids out there. And mostly I would hear stories about the wild man or hairy man, you know. And I'd say, well, is that Bigfoot? And they go, no, 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 it's different. I'm like, how's it different? No, they're different because of whatever. So I was confused, but it's the same thing. And then someone talked about the little people, or the Comanches called them Lenapees. That was the little people. And then women, I heard a lot of those stories, and you just don't know sometimes what to believe. And so I'm one of those people. If you want to tell me a story, I'll listen to what you have to say. But am I 100% believer? And that's no. But what I always ask people, I always say, is it possible? And that's my whole thing. And, you know, going back to Strange Oklahoma, that page, I joined there last year, or the year before, in about March, and they had by less than 200 people. And from a year, I took it from there. Now I'm not saying only me, but it's what I knew and the way I protected it or whatever, watched over it. I didn't let a lot of animosity come in. And what I try to do is get people to come in and tell those stories. And whether you tell me a story or not, I'm not going to say whether I believe it, but is there written documentation or is it evidence somewhere else? So any of us can say we've had a Bigfoot story. Is it believable? Well, maybe, maybe not. But could it happen? And that's the whole thing I wanted people to do, is say, can it, and is it documented? And that's the key. So whether you believe or not, it doesn't matter. It's that this person stepped up to tell us a story. They're telling you, so give it a chance, whether you believe it or not. And it's really funny there that in Strange Oklahoma, and it's even to this day, that somebody will post a story and they'll message me on the side and say, hey, Ron, I believe in Bigfoot, but I don't believe in ghosts. And then by the same token, somebody's writing me back and saying, you know what? I believe in ghosts because I saw one at my house, but I don't believe in Bigfoot. And so what I'm saying to people is that really you have to question what you believe and think outside that box. And a lot of this stuff, when you really get down to it, you got a lot of people on both sides, every side, that has their own insights and experiences. Some have more than others, but a lot of them fall back on what they've been taught. And
Right.
so they're not going to think outside the box, because if somebody says, I saw a Bigfoot, and they went and just vanished in the middle of this field, how can that happen? And yet you got other people say, well, there's tracks that lead right into the field and disappear. Where did he go? And so you got some evidence, but you got people who refuse to believe that evidence. And so now you have people fighting. And so what I had to do at Strange Oklahoma is say, whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. Go ahead, tell your story. Listen, if you hear enough of those stories, you're going to see it's probably true, or there's some truth to it. And so that's the way we handled it. And that's the way we handled it too, when we investigated. So I would have skeptics or whatever come in. It's okay to be a skeptic and ask questions. It's okay to call people names and start insulting people because you don't believe that way.
So what have you discovered with the little people? What are some of the stories that you've discovered?
Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of them out there, and in talking to other cultures. But with the Indians, when I talk to them, the ones that are around, they all said the same thing. They have really black hair. It's pretty long. Sometimes they might see it in a ponytail, or they would see them dressed in buckskins or something equivalent. And sometimes you'd see them peeking, around bushes and things. Some of the stories where they would tell me that I can remember some Comanches, they had horses on their property, and the horses would go out to pasture, and they'd come in with ribbons tied to their tails. And so a lot of people go, well, I don't know. But the one I saw, I'll tell you the story if you want to hear. And I could probably get my brother to maybe come on board sometime and tell you the same story. And we're going to have a little bit of difference, but keep in mind, this is over 40 years ago. So we'd been out at this pond, and that was in Lawton, Oklahoma. And it's a big field at about 67th and Lee Boulevard. And so we'd go out there fishing, take our BB guns and whatever. And so we're walking back, and we knew when the sun was going down, let's go home before the skunks come out. So we're walking home, and there was a fence we had to cross. And I don't think at that point in time there was any cows out there, but there was a number of jackrabbits, and so we're used to them just popping up and taking off. So this jackrabbit pops up, so we thought, and started taking off, and we're looking at it. My twin brothers within arm's reach, maybe just a little bit further away from me, and we're both seeing this thing running. And as it's running, it's zigzagging. All of a sudden, whether you believe it or not, that's okay, this black hole opens up. He runs into the hole. Okay, the black hole closes. He continues out. He's still zigzagging. We're watching this, by the way, trying to figure out what's really going on here. And then another hole opens up. He runs into that hole and vanishes. So I turned to my brother and I said, what in the hell was that? He's shaking his head and he says, I don't know, but it looked like a little Indian. Now, this would have been in 1977 or so. And so back then, I don't know how old some of you are, but back then you didn't talk about ghosts. You didn't talk about Bigfoot. You didn't talk about aliens. You didn't talk about flying saucers. If you were and did, you were the laughing stock. Everybody thought you were cuckoo, and they'd make fun of you in those times. So, I can remember in the early 80s when I got out of high school, my Indian counselor, his name was Frank Navakoya, and he pulled me in his office because I was talking to people about some of this stuff, trying to gain information. So at this point in time, I'm about 16, 17 years old, and I had that experience when I was about 14 or so. And so I'm talking to people about it, like, have you ever heard this? Have you ever seen this? And have you ever seen a ghost or any kind of weird things? And so I'm buying books. My mom's getting me books like Into the Unknown from the Reader's Digest and whatever. So I'm every story I could get a hold of, I would read. I took it to heart. And so here I am, and I'm talking to people. And long story short, these people wouldn't really talk to you. So Mr. Navakoya calls me to his office, and I'm outside in his office. He said, hey, I want to talk to you, Cross. So I went in the office, and he said, sit down. And it wasn't mean. He said, hey, sit down. I need to talk to you. And so he told me not to talk about that stuff at that point in time. So I really cut it back. And after I got a card about 16, that's when I really started doing stuff in the paranormal field, really investigating. But until that time, me and my brother, we had a lot of experiences with ghostly phenomena. And it made me start to think. And, behind me, you can see the Masonic flag. A lot of people have their own ideas about the Masons, that we're going to take over the world. But really, Masonry, if you look in the middle of the flag, it has the G, and that G stands for geometry. And when you really get to looking at everything that's built and everything we are, it incorporates geometry. So as a Mason, you're taught that you should seek geometry for knowledge and understanding. Even the atoms themselves have geometry to them. And so with that said, my dad was a Mason, so I became a Mason, and I began to learn that we have to learn things and we have to question what we believe. And that's what I did, and that's what I continue to do today. And so it taught me a lot to question. And if I didn't question, I'm never going to learn the answers. But a lot of people, unfortunately, will block things out. They'll believe in Bigfoot, but not ghosts, and the other way around. I don't do that. I say, is it possible? Are these cryptids possible? What are these cryptids? Do we know other cryptids? No, we don't. There's a lot of those cryptids going back to to dwarves and elves and Tommyknockers and Derwentes and all these things. That culture is throughout the world. So it doesn't matter what you believe, but what you should do is scratch your head and say, why is it that these things are everywhere and people have interactive, I can't say conversation, in some cases conversation, but they have this interactive thing going on with them where some come to them and some just see them. So all of this is really tied together. When you start talking about any of them, you can experience either, orbs or paranormal phenomena, kinetic energy, like things moving, or telepathic thoughts. But here in the West, unfortunately, we're not taught about these things. The Russians are. I can tell you that. They have studied parapsychology for years and years, and we are way behind. And so they use things like your aura. They can look at the cancer in your body. We're not doing that in the West. So there's a lot of things we have to question. And my whole thing is, going back to that flag behind me, as a Mason, I've learned to question. And I think that's what we're missing. A lot of times people are distracted and they're not being educated. In fact, I'll plainly say it, in the West, we're more indoctrinated than educated. And that education comes through indoctrination. It's not getting out there and digging. And so the one thing that we're lacking in the cryptid community and ghost community and the rest of it, the whole paranormal community, is critical thinking. So.
I'd like to introduce everybody to Mike Tornicasa. If you don't know him, he has a YouTube channel, and it's MT Paranormal Life. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good. Hello, Mike.
Hello.
Good to meet you.
Mike,
Same.
good to meet you. Ron Cross.
How's it going?
Nice. Randy Pettigrew, nice to meet you, Mike.
And Semper Fi, brother.
You raw.
Yeah,
So,
that's something you said there, Ron. That was that struck me. With the don't put yourself in a box, and that's something that I never did from the beginning, and I definitely won't ever do going forward. And the experiences have shown me that you can't put yourself in a box and expect something. You can't limit yourself, and there's just too many things.
No, I think you're right. I think a couple of us, or three of us here, I think maybe more, were in the military at one point in time, and you're told what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, how, and whatever, So, yes, sir, I'm going to do that, And I think that's how a lot of people think. And sometimes, like you said, you have to think outside that box. And a lot of people, when it makes them uncomfortable, that's when they're going to fight you. And, guys, I can tell you, as an investigator in Oklahoma City bombing, there's a lot of things that people were not told. And, things that were covered up and lied about. I'll just say it flat out. I don't care. It's been about 30 years now. I met in the Army in a murder building. I investigated the bombing. I knew some people that were victims and whatever. And a lot of it was hid. And a whole educational system is designed to do that. I mean, you start to question it, and they're going to jump on you like a chicken on a June bug. So you're taught not to question. And, one of my things that I talk about is, if we talk about the Civil War, normally folks are going to say slavery, but the war wasn't over slavery. If it was, why did Lincoln wait till 1863 to free the slaves? I mean, you go back and check and start asking yourself, and you're going to see that the average soldier for the Confederacy wasn't fighting for slavery. They were fighting because they were being attacked by the North, as far as they are concerned. So I'm going to fight to defend my homeland. But, there's so many things out there in the educational system that we're fed that is a biased truth. And sometimes it's a lie. And I think that we've all been suffering that for a good part of our lives. I could go into that for hours, but I won't. And I think that you're absolutely right, brother. We have to question, and a lot of people won't. It makes them uncomfortable. And, So they want to call you names. And going back to the 70s and further back, you didn't talk about any of this stuff. It was just, more or less forbidden. And
You
I
were
think,
if
go
you
ahead.
believed in it, you were thought to be crazy if you believed in any of this stuff.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
Back in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, I was going through college working with a lady who was high in her field. She worked for the VA, and her philosophy was if you believed in UFOs, you were nuts.
Yeah.
And she had been there for like 16, 17 years working for the VA system. I'm not going to name any names or link any. She did, but she was high ranking and she'd been there a long time. And their philosophy was, if you believed in this stuff, you were crazy. Well, I used to believe that until in 2009, I had a black triangle fly right over me. And then about 3 years ago, I had a close encounter with the werewolf at night from 3 feet away. I mean, I can't unsee that. I can't say that werewolves don't exist because I've seen them too many damn times.
Yeah, I've never seen one, but do I believe it possible? Absolutely.
I've never seen a Bigfoot, but after seeing a werewolf, if the United States government lied to us about the werewolves, then everything else that they've listed as myth, legendary, is true. It's historic record, not a mythology. It's historic record. You change all those names from legend to myth to historic record, and that's what you're dealing with. They covered it up to have power over us for control. It's all about control and keeping us in that box so they can be out of that box and gain control of us and keep us as their slaves in their sick game. That's my opinion.
No, you're right. And I think, and I always tell, I won't watch a dang football game or any of that. And if it offends you, I'm sorry. But, watching football and the rest of that game crap is crap. What they have done is created a distraction to keep you here. And then you like, Dallas, and I like the Raiders, and you like Pittsburgh. So we're not going to get along. And so this whole system is nothing more than cause division. And so they keep a lot of this stuff suppressed. They don't want the American people to know, I think, for one, because if they had to admit that UFOs are real and they could come, like Admiral Byrd was saying, and they have these craft that could fly from one pole to the other in a second or two, I don't know. But it would be highly likely that it would be something that you couldn't fight. And so now they have to admit they're not all that. They're not the biggest bully on the block. And I think that's why they suppress a lot of that information, but yet the signs are there.
Like people would panic. They probably would try to look to the government to help protect them because they wouldn't know, and then the government wouldn't have answers and know what to do, so they just wouldn't say that they're real.
I'm one of those guys that would be there that, from the state of Oklahoma to come to your door and say, we're the government and we're here to help you. And that's what CERT does. So we teach people how to prepare for the tornadoes and whatever else. But those the people that are above me in Homeland Security and those type of things, because CERT is under Homeland Security. When I talk to some of these people in the past, I won't mention any names, they kind of laugh at it too and say, we're from the government and we're here to help you because they know better. And then going back, a lot of us that are from Oklahoma, we have roots that came here from the native people. And so like my great-great-grandma was full-blooded Cherokee Indian. And my dad was half-breeds and his uncles and whatever. And so my grandma, she was born, I can't remember what year, like 1908 or something like that. And she lived through the Depression and she didn't trust the government. And she would tell me when we were young, you can't trust the government. Well, later on when I was older, I joined the Army and I served in the Army about a year and they put me out for my hearing and whatever. And my dad was in the Navy for 20 years. And I don't think he trusts the government either, but he knows a way to make a living. And so it's just funny that a lot of people know that and they mistrust the government, but you have to, make something and draw a paycheck. So you just salute and say, whatever. and go on. So you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot of people that are afraid and they want to feel comfortable. But I think if they really knew what's going on out there, in the world, in the seen and unseen, like uh, John Krill's book, I think it was, or Kill's book, he was that guy that wrote the Mothman prophecies. And what he talked about was the ultra terrestrials. And this is where you get into parapsychology some, because parapsychology is all about energy. Everything we already discussed is got atoms to it. Everything around us is energy. And it's all detectable. It's somewhere, whether it's heat or your electromagnetic frequency that generates from your body. So if you have a EMF detector, like a natural field, you set it on the table, you go walking too close to it, you'll set that EMF detector off because of your electromagnetic field. And I think that he got it right, that these beings like Bigfoot and little people and the rest of these cryptids, he calls it the ultra spectrum that's out there that we can't see, right? Because we can't see infrared, we can't see ultraviolet. So our vision's narrow. Well, it's the same thing with our hearing. Some people can hear above and some below. And, sometimes they can sense those other, we'll call them frequencies because the frequencies are wave, right? And whether it's a wave of light or sound or whatever, or they can pick up energy that is left behind. And that's what a psychic does, is that energy rubs off, just like a dog can use his nose to find you, right? And I've worked with Canine for Search and Rescue, and so it's amazing to work with them. And it's so funny. We can form a line, and search and not find a person. Let that dog go, and the dog's going to typically find that person in 10 or 15 minutes, where we had to do it in 30 minutes. So it's better to bring the dog out. But the dog can smell things and maybe hear things that we can't. And so what happens, I think, with some of these people, and I've worked with psychic mediums, and I'll dare say that one of them that I still work with, she works with the Catholic Church investigating demonic cases and whatever. And it's funny, I'll take her on a case, and I won't tell her a thing, but she'll know all about things there's no way she could have known. And so that tells me that there were people out there, I can name names, and you can look them up in history, people like, we'll just say, if you go back, Peter Herkhoff, he was a psychic, a Dutch psychic, and he's helped solve crimes. And he fell off a building, I think it was in World War II, and hit his head, and they had him in the hospital. And when he woke up, he had these powers. He could pick up an object and practice what's known as psychometry and read that object and tell who owned that object and about that person and personal life, all kinds of things. So there are people like that. And so what I'm getting at, these people that John wrote about in his book, he talked about these spectrums of light and other things that we as normal people don't sense, but there are people out there who do. And I think some of it, when you talk about, let's just say, little people with Bigfoot, you follow the footprints and all of a sudden they end in the snow. Could it be that they've switched dimensions on us? Could that be? Is it? I don't know. But is it a possible answer? And I think those things happen, and people are more sensitive to it, like kids seeing something like maybe the shadow man, and they see him all the time, but the parents don't. Or maybe the parents get a quick glance at it. So there are people out there that have the propensity to see these things when others don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You're talking about Bigfoot and other dimensions. Well, when you talk about Bigfoot walking in the snow and he comes to a stop, the prints that you follow come to a stop. When that happens, it's usually with no one around. I haven't heard of anybody witnessing seeing footprints being made by something that's not there while they're watching. So, do you think that when they go into a certain mode, um, is it would they have the ability to do so uh, on a whim, or would it have to would they have to have say like you have somebody who has psychic ability, um, they're usually left alone and they have to concentrate. Now I've had a few people ask me, well, does Bigfoot have the ability to do that if they duck behind a tree and they disappear? Because they've heard about them doing that. Do they disappear in front of you? I've also had other people explain to me that they've had that happen where they can see the Bigfoot and it's walking right towards them, and it all of a sudden it just goes poof. Um, do you think that they have the psychic ability to uh, change their physical makeup?
You know, look at it going back to geometry and all these things that influence. Like, let's say we want to melt something, we know how the atoms work differently than when it's cold or in its frozen state, right? And I think there's energies out there that are surrounding the earth, and these places like the Devil's Triangle, there's all kinds of weird reports. Some of it's well documented. It's always documented somewhere by somebody where people fly into it, a portal, we'll call it that, and they made it there faster than what that plane could possibly do or whatever. And so there's these magnetic or anomalies, let's just use that term, energies that are intersecting in this geometric pattern. And some places where they come together possibly overlap for some reason. That could be a cause. And so in those places, you might see more cryptids or experience more paranormal activity. So if they go maybe along a ley line or something like that, and they cross it, it's like walking from the darkness over here into the light. Now you can see me. And so I think it's probably going to change them because they're more subject to it than we are, per se, because we're stuck in our reality and we're three-dimensional. And so if they're with many dimensions, they sometimes step into this dimension more so because maybe it's that energy there. And that may be what it is. I can't say for sure, but I think that I highly suspect it. Highly suspect it. And if you get a map and start looking at the world, from what I understand, when I started studying somewhat about geometry and what it meant, and it's really, I'm not the math guy. Now my twin brother is. You know, I'm more the language guy, and so he'd understand it. But I just understanding the basics, I think that there's these geometrical patterns around the world that surround and they connect. And it's funny that from what I understand on Mars, where we have our pyramids, they have theirs at Sidonia on the same location that we have on Earth the last time I checked. And I find that funny. And it's because some people speculate that it's a grid pattern and it's used to transmit energy. And so these grids come together, I guess, at a certain place, and it's the best place to do it. And so I think that it's entirely possible that these cryptids with maybe places like moving water, that's one type of energy, with quartz crystal combined with something else, it's really, let's say, enhances their environment. And so I think sometimes with some of the stuff that we put up, like power poles and other things, may interfere with their frequency, and that may be when they come about. Maybe they're walking across this field and there's a 5G power, tower over here, and it's transmitting that power. They walk through that power grid. They maybe can sense it, but it's like, oh well, what the heck? I'm just going to go anyways. So I think that could be entirely possible.
Yeah. Now this question is for you, Mike, and for you, Ron. Do you think it's somewhat similar in the paranormal world?
Yeah, it is with ghosts and things. Like I said, if you look, there's certain spots where people are going to see ghosts. I mean, let's go back to just as an example, Gettysburg. We lost 50,000 people that day in 3 days of battle, right? So there's a lot of ghosts that are reported to be in Gettysburg. And it's funny. Some people can go there and not see a thing, but others go there, they can feel things, right? Because that's part of our five senses. And then other people can not only feel, they can see these things. And so, a lot of things in the paranormal field are connected. A lot of people they don't like to admit it, but I can tell you that it is. Have I ever had a telepathic experience? Yes. I have a twin brother, and I could give you examples. It's funny. And some people are more prone to telepathy. Some people are more clairvoyant, which is they're able to see into the future and also in the past. And so that would be a gift of like psychometry, where you get an object and you could tell that this, whatever rock or a ring somebody wore and what they experienced with that ring and how they felt, and know details about people's lives. So yes, it's all connected. And I think that, in my opinion, strictly in my opinion, I think that some of these cryptids have the ability to access what Edgar Casey called the Acacia Records. And the Acacia Records are everything that has been and will be. And so these people can go into a trance just like Edward Casey, and he could see the future, but he could also see in the past. And Edgar Casey, there's in Virginia Beach, Virginia, they have an institution there where he gave 13,000 readings, as I recall, to help people that had medical problems. And so he was able to tap into it. He did it in a dream state. And so some people can operate in that state. And, yes, and we all have that ability. We have to tune it. And that's what I'm saying. Some people can see these things in the other dimension by whatever right. And some of us have to have it. And then sometimes once we acknowledge that ability, we begin to operate in it. And so the question then becomes, is it our gift that we have that makes us special, right? Or is it that we start paying attention, much like going to the woods and saying, there's snakes out here. Yeah, I got you. After you see two rattlesnakes, you're really going to pay attention. So which is it? Or is it both? That's my take on it. But yes,
Was that up in the air for Mike's?
Yep. Go ahead.
For both of us? I didn't know if you said if it was just AI Mike or okay.
Question to both of them.
Well, I guess I can add a little bit just from my own experiences, because everything is about, that's where all of my you could say knowledge comes from. It seems like there's like a 50-50 relationship, and things happen, and in order for the things to happen, there has to be this attempt from you, this 50% attempt from you, and the other half comes back to you. And I think you are like a beacon. You could say like your body's frequency, which is everything, your brain waves, your heart, everything makes you like this unique beacon. And that makes everybody's interactions kind of different. So like things that happen are like this mix of like this 50-50. And that's what I've noticed too, because it seems like the things seem to happen, but it's when you're reaching out for it to happen. And I'm still looking into that research. Like things obviously will happen and people don't expect it, but I still think you're still in the equation, even if you're not necessarily making the attempt. But there definitely seems to be this underlying layer over top of us that I like to say is like the spirit realm. You could call it the higher dimension, is how I see it. Spirit realm and ours are basically, I think we're overlapped, and it comes and goes. It seems like things come like channels to us. Now, I know everybody's probably different. Like there might be some that have a higher connection, like mediums, and others probably see things way different than I do. But to me, it seems like things come through in channels, like almost like hopping, like bits and pieces, residual kind of things. Like that's what you get. Um, and it seems to be more audio based. It seems like that's, to actually get something visually based, like somehow something breaks through the spectrum and you see it, is very, very rare. That something can do that. And audio seems to be like more common. Like there's some kind of a key connection. The audio seems to be a little bit easier to come through where we hear it. Even disembodied voices or EVPs seem to be standard. So it seems like there's some kind of higher chance or probability that when you're making these attempts to communicate with the spirit realm, audio seems to be a more common thing that you're going to get that kind of connection with, that comes and goes. When you talked about the cryptid scenario with something that was there and then it's gone,
Mhm.
The one experience I had at West Branch, which is where everything changed for me, which what I thought would be, what I'd be doing, what I'm out there doing, I seen something that was very physical in every which way. It was hard for me to believe that it was some kind of a apparition or spirit. It seemed like it was real, very large. Fit like you could see the mold of what might be like a cryptid, maybe even a Sasquatch. And I seen it as it was like looked like it was running fast on two legs, bipedal. I caught it as it cleared a tree, and then it was gone. I didn't hear anything. It was probably like 50 feet. It wasn't that far. Didn't hear a noise, didn't see it after it cleared the tree. It was like it was just gone. So that seemed strange. It was something like it was real, it was there, but there was no sound, and then it was just gone. So that was interesting what you said about how like you talked about the geometry and possibly like some kind of, how maybe you could say interdimensional, how there's ways to basically travel, or you could say travel. But that's what that made me think of, and possibly why
Good.
others experience that. That's might be what's happening. It's a possibility, and I know what I seen was was overload for me when I seen it, but that's what it did. It looked like it was there, and then it was just gone, and it was real, but there was no sound.
Might I add this for you? You might look at a book by John Keel. I think it deals with the 8 dimensions and frequencies, and why he says these entities go in and out. And I think he's right. And you might look at that book maybe online and take a look at it, and maybe you'll pick something up from it. I think it'd be very interesting. But I agree with you, and I'm glad you said what you said. So this stuff happens, and we're trying to figure it out. And the thing is that we don't have all the information, and it's very tough. And I'm glad you said what you said. So very proud of you, just saying. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
I always said too, like if you're actually looking to uncover the real answers, I don't think you'd probably, to me, I don't think you should look for the answers, and that's something I stick by. That's why I don't really consider myself a researcher. I consider myself to be more like an experiencer, an explorer. You
Good.
take the risks because you're not always aware of what's there, especially when there's things there that you don't understand. But you're wanting to experience and connect and see what's there, but you're not necessarily worried about the answers or understanding it, because I feel at some point in time, whether it's the next phase after this one, you'll probably understand. You'll know the answers then. But I think the most important thing is to acknowledge it now, try to understand it and show the respect, knowing it's there, and then just make that that relationship and just work on seeing what you can find. That's kind of what I do.
No, your attitude is right, in my opinion. I read a lot of Malachi Martin's books in the day about demon possession, and there's a lot of people that are going to go out and say, no, that's that's not real until you live it, then it makes it real. And a lot of things started happening, like you were talking about intention. You're right. Mm-hmm. And so people would play with Ouija boards, and open doors. And Malachi Martin and other Jesuit priests would have to go and bless a home and try to get rid of it. And we'll call it save these people or whatever. And so you're right. I think if you go out with the intention, and there's others that wrote books too on the same subject, when they go to look into these things, they would now begin to experience. So I think it kind of opens the doorway. And I think if you sometimes creep in too far, there may be consequences. I've seen those kind of things happen with, we'll call the demonic or whatever, and it's real, but it's not real till you experience. So I think you absolutely have it right, Mike. I'm serious. I really do. So good for you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
So.
Pink Pixie had it. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, ladies.
Pink Pixie had a question for you, Ron, in regards to what do you think about the children? I don't know if you've seen it. The children that are afraid of Alexa. Have you seen any of those videos or heard about that? The children that freak out from the Alexa recordings.
Well, I've heard people talking to AI, and they freaked out about it. And so that's all I really know about. But I think that, in my opinion, again, that there's so many things that are very deceptive and make themselves known to us, And so I think there's a lot of deception out there, Why do some people have experience what others don't? Good question. So, that's what I think. I can't tell you honestly, specifically, but that's what I hear, that there's a lot of people having experience with AI and asking questions about things. That's all I really know about. So. And then
on artificial, what they call artificial intelligence, it's not artificial. It's an ancient intelligence. It's an ancient intelligence that's been on this earth for a very long time.
I agree.
There's been archaeologists that's discovered ancient cities, and in this one, they found, now these are stories, I can't prove it, but supposedly they found a living ancient artificial intelligence being still in existence, and all these humans were dead. Come to find out, the artificial intelligence or the ancient intelligence turned against the beings that were in charge of them, and it wiped them out.
Yeah, look at the Euphrates River. Supposedly, there's angels trained beneath it, and so who knows? Some people say the Euphrates is going to dry up and they're going to be let free, So I don't know.
That's
kind of scary, if you ask me. But
that's kind of where I go with my studies. Is I follow Scott Carpenter, and the DNA study and the linkage of the fallen angels. I personally, me and Jesse's had this conversation before many times. I'm a demon, fallen angel, and cryptid believer. I believe that there's a lot of deception by the demons, and I believe that they say approximately 25% of people that have a cryptid encounter will have a supernatural encounter.
That's true.
So the reason I believe that happens, just an opinion, is if that connection is true and what Melba Ketchum found in the DNA study, then you would have a lineage of blood that would connect even the disembodied demons to the cryptids. They would be somewhat family. And I believe that they would possibly use each other. Now, as far as where you was talking about, the footprints in the field and how they would disappear, I had a discussion with Ron Moorhead on that on the Sierra Sounds. And one of the quantum physics things that he had worked on, and one of his beliefs was, because of the fallen angels, they said Lucifer had, the musical instruments in him, which could have been the vocal cords, right? So if the vocal cords are allowing these creatures to go higher and lower, if they can manipulate, material objects into energy, then energy is weightless. they would be able to go into that orb, or to, you know, that was one of his theories. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are that everything is frequency related, and there was a ball found in Colombia, and if it hit an electric line, it's a Duran ball or something like that. I can't remember. But when they started weighing it, it started out like 6 kilos or whatever, and then within days it went to 9. So it had this frequency about it that made it lighter. And I do think there's information out there that they are using that negates gravity, and that's what's really weird, you know. So do I believe it? Absolutely. Is it possible? Yeah, the military's been using that kind of stuff for probably 30 years and hidden it from the people. You know, people are out talking about that. So crazy stuff.
Randy, Don was wanting you to rehash on what you said, because he said the sound glitched and he couldn't hear you.
Basically, researchers or archaeologists who went digging in miles down to discover a city. This city was ancient. I don't know the date on it, but they found like a spark plug as big as a human. And also in the city, they found an ancient artificial intelligence. It's actually an ancient intelligence that's been on this earth a long time. And at some point, man has repeated this cycle of building industry, building technology. They build artificial intelligence, and at some point, the artificial intelligence turns on them and wipes them out. There's studies on the earth that super weapons have been used in places upon this earth. Like there's places that's been entire cities turned to glass.
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
That's super weapons. The history of this planet and our solar system isn't what they taught us in school.
Now
There's nothing. There's nothing new under the sun, right?
Yeah, the Indus Valley in Pakistan, which is present-day Pakistan, they've got a signature there, some sort of atomic device going off, activating, and we know there's other places around the Earth too, and supposedly it's the same thing with Mars, that there was a battle there, and that's why they had to leave, and whatever. So, I don't have all the facts, but it's an interesting thing to talk about and discuss. And again, when you talk about governments, they don't want us to know because we would know that we're not in control or they're in control.
You're talking about the ancient aliens theory with the Battle of Mars.
Yeah.
The Anunnaki.
Yep. Yep. Supposedly Mars had an atmosphere. Yep. It was occupied by beings. Supposedly some kind of dragon race. I think they were called Draco dragons or something like that. Or maybe that was it. There's also one theory that there was multiple other planets in our solar system that during a planetary war they were destroyed, and that's why there's like the asteroid belt. That used to be a planet or two.
Yep, I've heard that too. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think that, and we got a good panel here. Hats off to you, Herb, for bringing everybody here. But I think, excuse me, is that I think that you have to have an open mind. It's not that you believe it or not, it's that you don't have enough information to support it. And that's what I say. And, there's a lot of things that are theory, but then we have that evidence to back up that theory, and we just have to keep reaching and grabbing and trying to obtain that evidence. But when you do, it sounds so far out there that everybody thinks you came from, planet Strange. But I think you really have to question. A lot of people won't. They're afraid to question. And, I took on, not to brag, but I had encounters, we'll say, when I say aliens, the FBI, CIA, and ATF on the bombing. And we did not get along. They weren't going to push me into a corner and make me think what I didn't know. And that's the stance you have to take and keep pushing to gain information. And that's what I do. I'm doing it to this day. Some people like it, some don't. I don't care. I'm going to keep putting the information out the best I can with the most facts I can. And that's what we have to do. So I had a friend of mine, it's kind of funny, and he was Choctaw Indian. And you could tell by looking at him, but he was absolutely convinced there was no such thing as Bigfoot. And I guarantee you, if he went back a couple of generations and talked to his ancestors, they would probably try to straighten him out. But he'd been so indoctrinated in the system that he didn't believe anything that these crazy drunk Indians were saying. And so him and I would talk about it, and he just wouldn't deal with it. So you're going to run into those people, and sometimes you have to just back off of them and let them soak up enough information and let them ask questions. So I found the best way to deal with those people is not argue, just give them things to think about and ask them questions.
Right.
And that way it's not confrontational. Just asking them questions is the best thing I found to open people's minds up, to get them thinking rather than,
Hey,
go ahead.
you know, if people don't believe, a lot of people don't believe in portals or dimensional doors, then why was the Pope doing this ceremony to open portals if they don't exist? Do you think the Pope was wasting his time? But you still have people that until they see one open in front of their eyes, they're not going to believe it. I don't care what you do, what kind of evidence you present them, until they see it with their own eyes, they're absolutely not going to believe it. And I don't care, because I've got people I know, and seen things when we were younger, but they somehow forgot, and for some reason, whatever encounters we had back then, they're gone. And they simply don't believe that. And no matter what you tell them, what proof you try to put in front of their eyes, they just don't believe.
Yeah, and I had the same thing. And I told people about the experience we have with the centipede, and that's what the Comanche call them, running into the portal and then running out the backside. So we seen two portals. You know, one where ran out the backside. Another one opens up. He runs through that one, this black hole, and just vanishes. And so I went over to look at the ground, and I'm digging through the grass, thinking that there had to be something there. It was solid. And so have I seen them? Yes. Too. And it doesn't matter, because what they're going to do is look at you and say, okay, you know, what were you smoking? Were you drunk?
I believe that night that I had my close encounter with the werewolf.
Yeah.
She opened up a portal and stepped through it 3 feet from my face in line of my headlamp. Outside of that portal, through the event horizon, there was a whole other world on the other side. It wasn't Earth. Now, I don't know where, but the technology that was on the other side wasn't this real.
Hey, while we're talking about this, let me just throw this out there. Probably about 2 years ago, I was filming with my friend Jack Riggs. He goes by the cameraman and crew. And we were at Cuyahoga Valley Forest, which is a strange place where we've documented some weird things. And we use a thermal, imager for filming sometimes, just to see if we catch any strange anomalies. And on this night, he captured a what looked like, you could say we'll just say a portal. Okay, I'll describe it and see what you think. It was above me, probably 10, 15 feet up in the air above me. We caught it with this thermal, and it changed size. It looked like it would get smaller, and then it would expand, and then it would get smaller. And it was hot, but you know how hot it was. It went over the max of the thermal's range, so it was over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
And he got that recorded, and we have that. We showed that out to everybody that's out there for people to see. But we just called it a portal because we didn't know what the hell it was, because it's over 1,000 degrees. Don't know exactly how hot, because the thermal just went the max, and that's once it goes over 996 degrees or whatever, just max, and that's what it was at.
Great.
You know, the other thing may be that it could have been that hot, but it could be affecting your thermal too. And so it's the same thing with we'll say other paranormal entities, ghosts, for example. You would have a temperature. It could be the temperature did indeed was measured at that, but it could be that electronics, as you know, are often affected by entities. So it could be either way, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting. And one of the things we did, I talked to Harold about it back in the day, and I've got it posted on Strange Oklahoma, and we were using TLD 100, and it would shine out a green light for so far, or a blue light for cold, and then red for hotter. And you have the temperature, gauge on there. And we would often communicate with these disembodied spirits and ask them what color the light shining was, and they would say green, or we would ask them to also change that green light to red or blue. And occasionally you would hear that EVP, or actually ITC, instrumental transcommunication, when you're using a live device. And so you would hear at that time, blue or red. And so it would always measure a temperature change. And sometimes you could feel the cold, and other times you couldn't. Maybe it's too far away. So maybe it could have been something messing with the equipment to some degree, or maybe it was like you said, 1,000 degrees, or maybe more.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those where it was the target was picking up. It picks up the hottest with the one spot, and then it'll have the coldest with another spot. So that one was at the hottest point, and that was measuring the hottest temperature because it went right to that. As soon as he went up there, it automatically found that hot point, and then was measuring it. And when he goes to it and sees it, it goes like, you could see it spike up to max, and you could see it go like 500, 600, 700 degrees, and then it goes to max, and it stays at max. And then it just keeps changing size. It keeps like expanding and contracting down. It looks, I don't know exactly how big, because it was hard to know depth when you look at it, because we couldn't see it with our eyes, because it was probably about 11 p.m. At night, so we couldn't see it. So we couldn't tell the depth, how far away it was. We couldn't really tell all that. You could just see the image of this hot signature and what it's doing, the actions of it.
And Mike, to me, that's what makes it very interesting, and that is you just don't know. And the more time you spend in the field, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the more questions you walk away with.
Speaking of questions, I got one.
You don't know anything. You know less than you did before.
Exactly. Go ahead.
I've got a question. Maybe you, Mike, or you might know that I don't know that I just had happen to me just this summer. I've been going out in the field, and one of the locations I was going to, Mike was talking about, and the colors of light and one. For some reason, I started getting EVPs. I don't look for EVPs, but I do pick up EVPs. I'm more looking for the cryptids. But whenever I was picking up the EVPs, my light on the pole, I use a pole light in front of the camera, and we will capture a red light and a blue light, kind of what y'all were talking about, and I've caught that on mine. And with that would be the EVPs. Now, I've had a few times, like the other night, where it'll look like it'll be a clear night, but it'll look like somebody with a camera flashed me from above, like somebody took a picture. I've had that happen just a few times. And then in this area, September 1st, actually, I'm going to release it. I've showed it to Jesse and Randy seen it. I have 2 Sasquatch moving through the woods that are perfectly, you're going to be able to see them. And this has all happened in this one area.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's the energy that's around them that they kind of mesh together like lightning, 2 types of energy, and I think that's maybe what it is. But there were times at the site when we were doing the research back, in like 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in there. And we're all sitting there, and we're sitting at different 90-degree angles or whatever, and we're looking at a wall. And so what I would say is anybody watching that wall? And I point up, and we could see one another, but not really, really clear. Just, it was pretty dark, but not black dark. And I would tell them, pay attention to the wall, and all of a sudden they would see it too. And it'd be like a blue light twinkling or red. We'd see yellow lights, like fireworks when they're dying out, but dimmer. So we had a lot of light anomalies during those times. And I just know that it's all involves energy. There's got to be something going on that makes these things happen like sparks. If you were to take flint and hit it with steel or a hard object, you get sparks. So I kind of liken it to that, but I can't say for sure. We had EMF detectors. It wasn't enough EMF to set them off. So could it be electromagnetic? It could have before. Kind of things like you're talking, or just a flashlight like a camera. So, absolutely.
Right.
I wonder, could that be from like a door opening and closing, and that's what that flash? That's like the energy being let off by that, because it's going to have to cost energy to open a dimensional door, right? It's got to cost something.
No.
I wonder if that's the flash that you're recording on your video is from those doors opening up.
Yeah,
I'm going to be listening to think of some. We've heard metallic like doors shutting.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we can go back and listen to see if we're getting any of those sounds with those lights that's flashing. I'm going to start paying attention on your boots on the ground and see if I can pick that up if we're seeing that flash connected to that.
I think it could be. I think there's sound. I mean, vibrations come in many things. Music itself is really geometry. Like I said, a lot of that stuff's connected together. I can tell you whether you guys believe it or not. I'll go ahead and tell the story. But back in the day, I had a demonic case. This would have been like the 1980 something, the beginning of 82 or 83. Somewhere in there. And it all started with a Ouija board, and some might roll their eyes, but most of you know that these things happen. Well, anyways, this demon finally appeared to this girl at the foot of her bed, and I'll just saving time. The mother that told me the story that wanted to get me involved, what she said is she saw this demon at the foot of her bed of the daughter, and it was tall and black and whatever. But she woke up in the middle of summer, like here, and it's 100 some degrees outside, and it was so cold in the house when the mother woke up, she could see her breath. At that point in time, she knew something was wrong. So we got involved, and I contacted the pastor that had an NDE, near-death experience, and so he knew these things were real, and he believed, and I contacted him, and he asked us to get together and let's go to this house 2 weeks away, and we're going to bless the house and do whatever. And I was going to go there as I don't know. During that time, we started having things happen to us, like our clocks being set back, heavy breathing, kind of things, footsteps, all these weird things happen, and we got to the point where we were unassured that we should be involved in this. And I had started having dreams and whatever. And then this angel appeared to not only me, true story, guys, my twin brother. And he quoted the scripture in Matthew 12 about when demons are cast out, where they go. So I had the same dream too. So I get up the next morning, and I go to tell my brother, and I'm telling him the story, and he's kind of nonchalantly listening. And I didn't even get to what the scripture was or what was really said. My brother blurted out the scripture. So he had the same dream too, is that an angel appeared to me and he appeared to my brother. And when he appeared, there was a very light, white light behind him that shone out so far. And it was another dimension because he was bigger than the ceiling. The ceiling's 8 foot. He was like 2 feet above the ceiling. I remember I was laying in bed and I woke up and he's there. And I'm thinking, man, this guy's bigger than the ceiling. How can he be bigger than the ceiling? And where did the ceiling go? So at that point in time, I'm going to have to say it was the portal.
Wow.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that I do what I do now. And, you know, I've had people contact me on Strange, Oklahoma, that their pastor couldn't help them, and they would call me in to help them out because they heard me talking about this stuff or somebody knew. And, you know, I got to quiz them and then try to get my seer friend involved and go from there. But, you know, this stuff is real. And if it's not real, just wait till it happens to you. Then you're going to know it's real, just like the rest of you guys, because I'm impressed with your stories. And I tell you that because I've never seen a dog man or a wolf man, but I know they're real. You know, the cephalosi. Marco Polo wrote about them. St. Christopher was the dog-headed man. And there's all kinds of things out there that point to these cryptids, and people aren't told about it. So I'm proud of you guys for standing up and saying and telling me your experience. I feel honored, seriously. So
I'm trying to help other people because there's a lot of people out there don't believe in this stuff. Literally, I was listening to Paranormal Investigations thinking those people were crazy. Until one night I run into a werewolf 3 feet away. Then I get 20 years of encounters with werewolves flooding back to me because the memories of those encounters have been.
No, I get it. You know, the other thing I think, like I said, I talk about Edgar Casey. I think that they have access to what they call the Acacia records, and they know all about you. They know where to attack you. They know all about your friends, your family. I mean, they're worse than the intelligence agencies. You go somewhere, they can show up, you know. And so, you know, they can be pretty rough, you know. So.
Good night, Scared Silly. Sorry about the technical issues, but we worked through them as much as we could.
Yeah, we got it done, Danny.
Yeah. We were talking about EVPs and all that. I'm going to be releasing a short video. I've been putting my trail camera out at night in my front yard, and I've been getting some pretty good images of some things that might look cryptid, and yet some things that look paranormal. So I decided to download an app to try to catch some EVPs, and I tested the app, and it seems to be legit because I don't get the same answers, and everything, every question I ask, it gives whatever answers back gives me pretty straight answers, and they're not repeated, except for this one. And in the video that I'm going to be releasing, I'm standing in front of my trail camera, and I'm on the app, and I'm asking the questions. Now, before I made that video, about a week ago when I first got the app, I was sitting down with my stepson, and we were trying out the app while I was asking questions to see if anybody was here, because we have some weird things that happen in the house. So I'm asking questions, and I asked who's here, and it said I'm an angel, right? But it didn't sound so friendly. So I asked it, then, and I asked it again when I was outside doing the EVP stuff, and I asked the same question, and it said again, I'm an angel. So I asked it, okay, are you an angel of the light or an angel of darkness? And the first time I asked that a week before, it mentioned it was an angel of darkness, and it laughed at me. The second time, when it said outside, when it said they were an angel, they didn't answer angel of darkness or angel of light, but it laughed. So I was going to continue my little investigation, but I had too many people coming around, so I'm going to be releasing that video within the next few days.
You know, that's the thing with Rod Ive and Jurgensen and George Meeks. There's these, we'll call it less than perfect entities that they would get a hold of them sometimes, and they were very deceptive.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that based on how you're feeling that day, like you're very angry, I wouldn't do it. And I if you look at my website, prosinvestigations.com, you can see some of the research I did with EVP and ITC, and you need to be in a good mood. Otherwise, like we've all talked about, your energy draws these things to you.
Yeah.
And I think Mike talked about that as well. And they will come around you and start messing with you. And I'm not saying you
or stay away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So they definitely pick up on you. They know things about you.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, what's surrounding us that we don't see, just like that movie, you know, the Mothman Mysteries or whatever, Prophecies, one of the people in there, they went partway crazy with this stuff. And, you know, if you really got to thinking about the voices that are out there and, you know, they're surrounding you all the time, you'd probably be afraid to take a shower.
Be paranoid.
Exactly. And so they can attach to you. I'm not going to say they will, but they never attached to me. But I always knew when I went somewhere that they could be following me. In fact, I did so much ITC EVP work, and a lot of it I got inspired by Dr. Howe, or Dennis Howe, wasn't a doctor, but he was a professor. And so I started doing it and checking into it, wanted to see what was true. And then I realized these things are with us all the time. They're making comments about everything you do if you have a recorder going. And you think about it 24 hours a day, yeah, it's going to drive you crazy. The other thing that people have, we'll say, disembodied in their house, you know, evil spirits or whatever, and they can't sell the property, whatever. And that's because I figured out in due time, as others had, that these things are speaking to your subconscious, and sometimes you'll respond and not even know it. So it can kind of get heavy dealing with that kind of stuff. Just saying.
Yeah, I do a lot of ITC and EVP work, and I've started to notice this that happening a lot with the anticipatory answers.
Yeah.
And it's starting to get stronger. Like I just had it happen with the video I just released today. I had an instance which used the ITC and devices that gave me pre-answers to what I was about to ask. And it did it twice. And the second time it was acknowledging the fact that I was talking about it and about to say that I think they do this because they know what I'm going to say. And it answered yes before I even said that. And I was like, yep. I'm like, there's another example of it.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying. When you get it all together and you start realizing you're communicating with something you can't see, touch, or feel for the most part, it really starts to mess with your head. It can. And that would be my advice to people. But I did it for research purposes and learned a lot. And one of those people I trained, Billy Pill, she ended up working with the RIP files, and she was psychically inclined too. And we have some conversations about it. So what you're saying is absolutely right.
Harold, can I show something? I think everybody'd like to see this.
Yeah.
Let me find it here real quick. And,
All right.
I think I might have to do...
Also, when you get a chance, could you explain a little bit what ITC is? Because I haven't done a whole lot of paranormal research in quite some time, so I'm not familiar with ITC. I mean, obviously I know what EVPs are, but ITC, I've never heard of that before.
I can give you. You probably can define it better. It's inter-trans communication. It's basically, I guess the easiest way would be like any electronic communication device you use to communicate with spirits in pretty much any way.
Yeah, the radios, ITC, instrumental trans communications. You can actually, I know how to do it. In fact, I've got a TV around here. You can actually set up a camera to focus on the TV screen or loops and things, and it'll actually capture people's faces and sometimes record audio off of that. And so EVP is just a recorder that records the voice, but with ITC, you're going to be listening to a radio or frequency that scans, and or maybe on a static station with white noise, and you're going to hear voices. You'll hear the voices over the device before you listen to the tape. And what's funny, sometimes you go back and listen to the tape, and it's not on the recording sometimes. So when you get to thinking about it, you're all these weird things that happen with ITC and EVP, it can make you a little funny.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because that's what's been happening on Mike's lives that he's doing when he goes out doing research. The voices that are actually answering questions in the chats now. Like they're reading over his shoulder and actually reading the chats as it's going through and answering questions.
Let me say this. I test people for psychic abilities and those type of things, and I'm willing to test anybody, but I do it according to the Zenner cards, and I have put people in a different room, and I would give them the cards, okay, and then anyways, I would tell them. I'm trying to think how I did it, but anyways, I would do the card and have the person in the other room writing things down too of what they thought they heard the answer on the EVP say, and we are on average getting an 80% correct answer on EVP. So is it something? Yes, it is. And some of them, just like us, none of us are here are clowns, right? And so, but you always get this clown that comes in and says, it's a heart, it's a this, it's a that, So then you got three voices, and they're all saying something different, just messing with you. And so that would account for about 20% of us being incorrect. But 80% of the time, and I did this on a very regular basis, sometimes less than 80, sometimes up to 93, 94% of the time, it was correct when they wrote down what they heard. So, crazy.
Rob, did you ever get into remote viewing by chance? Did any of y'all ever do that?
I know about it, and I studied it in parapsychology, and I have a friend of mine, her name is Lisa G, and I'd go out and investigate, and she wouldn't go, and we were focused on a Dr. Pepper can because somebody said they saw it move, so we're like all standing around waiting to ask them to move this Dr. Pepper can. So I get back, and Lisa G says to me, I know you guys were focusing on a round cylindrical object. I think it was red in color, and the room was and so I would hide stuff from her, and say, Lisa, I'm going to hide whatever, my, hairbrush or pair of pliers, and I want you to tell me where it's at. And I would hide it under a cushion, and she would know.
About it until I found out that it was declassified information about the United States military using remote viewing to find out about particular Russian subs and the exact dates when their super subs was going to launch.
Let me tell you this. A lot of people don't know why the United States even considered it. And there's a guy named Wolf Messing, like the wolf that howls, Messing. And the guy was a psychic in Germany. And so there's several versions of the story. But let's just say he left the Germans because supposedly locked him up because he basically said in public that when Hitler attacked the Russians, that's when they'd lose the war. And so Hitler and the Gestapo and the rest of those idiots didn't like it. And so they locked him up. And supposedly he used mind control on him. The guy had telepathy, and he escaped and went to the Soviet Union. And when he got there, Stalin had him tested. And one was he went to psychically rob a bank for 10,000 rubles. And from what I've read and understand, there may be some different versions, but along the same line. Okay, he walks in. Wolf walks in with a briefcase, walks up to the teller at the bank. The KGB, whatever secret agents are already there. He opens the case, turns the case around, and hands the blank piece of paper to this banker. And the banker went and got 10,000 rubles, put it in the case. Wolf shut the case and started walking out the door. The secret police grabbed him, and then they went and asked the teller, "Why did you give this guy that money?" And he said, "Well, it was on the paper. There's nothing written on the paper for 10,000 rubles." And so the other test that Wolf did was that he went and had tea with Stalin when he was under heavy guard. Now, this time World War II is going on. There's an Operation Barbarossa going on. The Germans are attacking them. The Russians are getting their butts kicked. Stalin's included, trying to figure out how we're going to fight this war while the generals and the people are paying with their lives. And so Wolf, as I recall, went to meet with Stalin and was told that, hey, this is what needs to happen. I want you to come see me and have tea with me. So he's in a compound surrounded with roaming guards, the whole thing, right? And so what he does is he walks up to the gate and they let him in. Nobody checks. So the roaming guards stop him too, and they let him in. He got all the way to the building and walked in that room with Stalin. So Stalin's like, what the heck? And so Stalin's like, I had to let you in here, right? So here's the story. What Wolf Messing projected into every one of their heads that he met, he projected he was Beta, as I would call. And Beta was a guy that was in charge of like all the security forces. And that's what he projected in their head. And so the Russians began to try to use ghosts for spies because now they know this stuff is true. And so they built pyramids that started growing grass and have been extinct for 10,000 years, all kinds of stuff, looking at people's auras for cancer, other diseases, so they could treat them. This has been since that time. So you're talking 40, 2, whatever, forward. And so the Russians knew the U.S. was way behind. And so it wasn't until like maybe the 50s or so, or 60s, that they started getting on board, and they started recruiting people that had psychic abilities at places like Stanford University in California. And so what they would do, if you could take parapsychology, which I took a parapsychology course, which I don't know what I would get in that degree. But anyways, once they figured out, enough about the subject, they would do telepathy tests. And like you were talking about, Randy, remote viewing and other things to get people involved to figure out if they had that potential. And once they got that potential, then they were recruiting them for the CIA. And so that's how we found our prisoners in Iran in 1979. They were remote viewed, and that's why we went.
Joe McGonigal. I saw that Joe McGonigal was what, the remote viewer #1 for the government.
He was one of them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So is this stuff true? And it's funny because a lot of people in the cryptid world, and I've spoke to many of them, kind of off the record, and they would say something like, this sounds really funny, but it's almost like looking around. I don't want anybody to hear me saying this, but I had a telepathic experience with Bigfoot. Okay, and so to ease that pain, I would say, well, I know telepathy is real. I've been tested for it. I was at over 80% for it. And so I know it's real. I have a twin brother. Him and I would sometimes communicate thoughts. I don't know how to say it. But telepathy is more than just words. It's sights, it's sounds, it's smell, it's taste, and it's feel. Those 5 senses. But it all comes through, we'll call this psyche of that person. And so they can feel that pain. So I remember one time in particular, people would ask me, do you ever feel your brother's pain? And Lonnie had hurt his knee, and it was hurt for 3 days, and I was limping. I had no reason to limp, but I had to limp too, and it hurt like heck. And so I know it, and I've lived it, and I think that that's what's really drawn me in to this world. And so in due time, I took a course in parapsychology, and I don't know if it would be considered a degree course because they don't recognize it in the U.S. But the college that it came from came out of Europe. And so they opened a branch here, and that's how I got the certification in parapsychology. And we knew all about these things and these people that, unfortunately, I'll say it again, not to knock any of you, don't take this wrong, because I'm not talking to you guys about it. A lot of people don't know about because they have hidden information. So.
Correct. For control of us. They also released. They released about the military talked about it. Oh, we didn't get anything from that. We discontinued that program. Just like when they canceled the Blue Book project, they said they stopped looking at UFOs, but they didn't. They just started up under another agency in a different name.
Well, it's the same thing to do with the CIA. I mean, they run drugs and stuff in countries, and all that money from Iran-Contra was all crooked money in the end, and so they do these things. They've been doing it forever and a day. And I think they probably got some pretty good psychics out there. I know some people that say they work with the government in this stuff, or have been asked to come and work for them. They don't work for them or not being paid, kind of volunteer. So I don't know what they're doing, but I do know people. One guy was a captain in the Army, and I know him very well. And he would tell me about some of the stuff that he endured in the military and was not told to speak about. So you tell me. And that was in, I'd have to check when he actually ETS and got out, but that's been in the last maybe 10 years. I can't say for sure. I have to ask him. So do they do it? Absolutely. Does the FBI get psychics to help them? Absolutely. One of them I know.
Well, I mean, and if you look at it too, there's people that are coming out that are saying that they know that there are people within the government working with satanic cults and satanic groups to do things. And that's a whole nother can of worms that if you think about it. Yeah. That the government is willing to work with groups like that.
And being a Mason, I get a lot of people that think that we're a cult. And I can tell you honestly, the only secrets that we have is how we identify one another. And it says, in the darkness of the light. And that way, we Masons are supposed to help others. We don't want people taking advantage of us for our good nature. And so we do a good nature thing to help people that have speech impediments, and the shrine helps people that are lame and helps them walk and operations. So we do a lot of good, but because we believe in questioning things, and some of you know, in your religion, you don't question the tops of the line like the pastor. And I don't know how many times some of you found your pastor's been wrong, but I question everything. And that's what we're taught in Masonry. We're not taught to just stand there and salute the flag of everything it stands for. No, we're going to stand up and make sure that we're standing for human rights. And when people want to talk about me being a Mason, fine. Who gave you the Constitution? It's a Masonic idea. The whole thing is Masonically inspired. It's not based on a king that can put his hammer down and take your head one day because he's mad at you. No, here we're a republic where we have due process. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't understand that. But it was people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Ben Franklin that said, no, these are rights that are inalienable, all man of all colors. So Jefferson released what slaves he had and said, if we're going to build this new country, these people need to be free. And so I think that's where we have to go, is people like you and me have to open our minds and question things, and a lot of people won't.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Have you
won't.
seen
Go ahead.
talk with goats about them trying to kill a goat with telepathy? Have you ever seen anything similar to that? Or my wife has a question: have you seen anybody put to sleep by somebody using telepathy with their mind control or something like that?
Yeah, there was a Russian psychic. I think, if I can pronounce her name just off the top of my head, I'd have to go look at some of my sources. Her name was like Nina Korogina or something like that, and she could actually stop the heart of a beating frog, and so she would kill him. It caused her a lot of mental stress up here, and she'd have to go rest and pass out afterwards. But there was one guy that didn't believe in her abilities in Russia, and this would have been in I think the 50s. I could go back and look it up for you if you want. But the guy sat in front of her and actually began to affect his heart, and the guy was in the process of having a heart attack, and she stopped. So yes, can it happen? But we have weapons now that are known as psychotronics, where they can send frequencies to any of you they want that has a cell phone. And through 5G, which is higher, and maybe 4G too, they can irritate people. They can make you hear voices, and they can indoctrinate you from your phone. And you can tell people, but they're not going to listen. But it's all there,
All right. Well, you
Yeah.
want to check this out? It wouldn't be a stream with you if I didn't have something to show.
Yeah, we
This
got
was
left, so
this was from Beale
My wife
Manor in Fremont, Ohio. I stayed overnight there. I got the video. I already released the video here, but there definitely was a lot of activity the night we were there. I went outside. This is the only time, except for when I just filmed my intro, that I actually went outside, and I wanted like a thumbnail at night. So it's probably like 1 a.m. I was out on the road, and I took 3 pictures of the front, just different zooms, same spot. And then I went back inside, and after I was, getting ready to make my thumbnail, I happened to notice something on the one picture in the top right window of the attic. Look at this.
oh wow.
It almost
can
looks like 2 faces
Yeah.
in a hand.
Yeah,
Or
this
an
one
arm.
looks like a profile, like someone
Uh-huh.
younger, maybe a young female.
Wow.
Looks like a profile, a side view looking this way.
It looks like a little girl on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one on the right looks like younger, maybe younger. It looks like, I think, a female maybe. But and this is another thought process. When I seen this, I was like, well, I only went out there to take the photo briefly, and then this showed up. So the thought I have about how there's this connection, you know, my intent being there, everything was known, and in so taking this photo, they came through. So that kind of again showed me that they can tell when you're looking. They know your intent. They know you're there. And I was taking a photo or I was looking. Maybe I don't know if it's necessarily because I was taking a photo, but I was looking there. So I think, you know, these kind of events are triggered because of the combination of your intent, what you're doing, and they're aware of it. And I think that's why this happened, was because I was focused there. So that was very interesting. This is the only photo I've ever captured with something like this, with this kind of pretty clarity in the apparition.
Yeah, it's pretty good from what I see. You know, if it's not in the other ones, and you know,
Yeah, I could find the other three, but yeah, the other three are just, there's nothing in.
Yeah, it's like mine. You know, what I always tell people, I don't know what it is. I always left it unexplained, and so we don't know. But it's there, and that's what I always told people. Like the face in the window, on my website, I left it unexplained because we can't explain it, but maybe somebody else can. But could it be a ghost? Absolutely. You know,
Mike, Ron, I have a ghost story I can share with you if you want to hear it.
Go ahead. No, good.
One night, me and my wife watching movies. I turn in early. I go to bed. I'm sleeping. The door opens up. I look up and I see the door open, and I see it looks like a woman walk into the room, and the door's shut. I'm thinking it's my wife coming to bed. I'm laying there, and something makes me look over there at her, and I'm looking at her expecting to see my wife, and it's a ghost of a female. I can see clearly through her. I can see her face, her mouth, her hair, and she's standing right at the bed, right here by me. I mean, right here.
Right.
And she smiles and waves at me, and then she vanished into thin air. And I started screaming like a little kid. That scared the holy crap out of me. I'm crying for my wife. My wife comes running in the bedroom, and I don't think I told her that night. I didn't tell her till like the next day what happened. But that scared the crap out of me. And I don't believe in ghosts, okay?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
think that.
Yeah, I've seen where I'm at presently. This house is pretty haunted, and I've seen a lot of things happen here. And one of the things that happened, and it's on my website, and that is that the Cox Cable guys came here to change out the box or something, or take some away. I don't remember exactly. But what happened was they unplugged this TV, and the thing stayed on for more than 5 minutes. And so they're like, why is this TV on? Now it's unplugged, right? And stays on. And so the homeowner had to go get a remote to shut the TV off. And so I don't know what all happened at that time, but the Cox guys said, you know what? If you ever have a problem, call Cox, but I'm not coming back. So the guy, actually, this is no joke, got out his phone and took a video of the unplugged TV. And so doors will shut here, lights get turned on, things disappear. Like if you're cutting something, you lay the knife down to go, pick this up, the knife is gone. I believe it was my friend's mom. She would get into the cream cheese. And so all the cream cheese would have fork marks in it. She doesn't use a fork to get the cream cheese, but her mom did. And so the furniture would be moved. All kinds of things, You hear walking or somebody coughing in the next bedroom or whatever else. So there's more than that, a cat and other things. So you never know. So it's crazy. But I will tell you all a secret on hauntings. And when I would do tours, and I would have like husbands and wives and whatever there, and husbands would say, I don't believe in this stuff. Okay, I get you. But the whole secret to a haunting is based on these things. and some people get offended, but it's the truth. Age, race, and sex, another thing. So, Harold could go somewhere and go to a haunted house, nothing happens. Then Jess goes and the place goes crazy. Or if there's Jess and her friends or females, it even gets more active. And so sometimes it's a reverse. They want the men, but they don't want the women. So when you have that right balance of men and women, maybe nothing happens. But if you have the balance with one or the other, my site was that way. And so when we do ghost tours up there, and we had to pay for the electricity, the rent, the cable. So we did ghost tours, and a lot of times I'd end up paying the bills of my buddy Tony. And so we'd have women come and bring their friends, and we'd have things thrown, things move, voices. And so we developed a women's team, and they would go in, and some nights we'd be pretty active with the women there without us guys. And then if we all went, maybe a little activity or no activity. If the guys went, next to nothing. So whatever was there, and some would speculate that it's women and children, and there were flooding in the area. Nobody died in the building. Maybe that's it. So if you want to have an experience somewhere, look up the history and look what's reported to be haunting the location. And then look at who reports the most activity. And so, again, male and female, race you can't help. You're born that, right? And then there may be some other factors, but those are pretty big factors. Age as well, So I could never be a good as an investigator as a woman, and that's why if you're dealing with men, they'll focus on women sometimes, and when you're dealing with some sort of female spirit, it may focus more on the women than the men. And so I figured that out, early on, and that's the way it works. So always have women around for a reason, for that reason. So
nice or good for something.
So what you're saying, Ron, is that this is now a good reason I can use as a pickup line if I want to bring a girl.
Blame it on me. I've been blamed for
there. You go.
No, but it's
like, look, I have to cover all my bases. I know we just met, but I need you to come with me.
Yeah, but it's
just
true.
Stay overnight in his house.
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old. I have a 10-year-old grand. Go ahead.
Ron just proved if you want to catch bigger fish, use better bait.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
You go to prison.
I have a 10-year-old grandson, and he's kind of afraid of his own shadow in the beginning. So, I told my daughter, I said, look, I'm going to turn it into a man. And so I started taking him out to do things, ghostly type things. And one of the first encounters that he had was he ran into a bull snake in the middle of the road. And he shouted and screamed like a little girl. And he said, it's a rattlesnake. It's a rattlesnake. I knew better because he probably got bit. So I walked up and I looked at it. I said, no, it's not a venomous snake. It's a rat snake. And I said, he's crossing the road. You walked up to him and you scared him. And I said, this is what happens to a lot of people in a paranormal environment. And he said, my grandson said, but Grandpa, I thought Bigfoot threw a stick at me. And so what I'm getting at, we expect these things and you never know what's going to happen. So you have to be ready for everything. So I've taken him out so he can investigate, and he goes with me sometimes on the ghost tours, and he interacts with people, and I've let him read some of the things that we have there at Fort Wayne or whatever. And I think what I'm trying to get him to do is what I'm doing, if he wants to, and he seems to want to, and it is helping other people, just like what all of you are trying to do. You've had your own encounter, you're living your life, and at some point in time, you have to pass that on to somebody in your family that has that same desire. And, I can just tell you my background, if you want to know. It does come from the Middle East, and our people believe in um, being a blessing according to Genesis or Bereshit in Hebrew. And it is, we're here to be a blessing to the people of the earth. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I've told my grandson. It's not about the fame and the fortune. It's about you doing what God has ordained you to do. And that's to be a blessing and not a cursing. And so I'm trying to get him to do that. And that's why he's doing what he wants to do. Or I want him to do it, but he does too, to be a blessing. Because I told him, I said, here's the thing. If you really trust in God and love God, I'm not trying to preach it to anybody, but that's what I do. And it works for me. Be a blessing to others. And you can see what a difference you're going to make. And God's going to look out for you. And that's my whole thing. And that's why I do what I do. And that's how we grew Strange, Oklahoma with under a year with almost 25,000 people. Was I wanted to give these people a blessing. It's not that I know it all, and I don't, but I know a lot. And so I figured if I could come in there and be a blessing to other people, they would join Strange and tell their stories just like you guys are doing. I mean, I love it. You all are telling your stories. You're not hiding it. You're not ashamed of it. And that's what we have to do, is we have to be a blessing. And if we're that blessing and give other people a voice, it's going to make all the difference in the world. And that's why I'm here. Is I don't know it all. I don't know it all. But I know a lot because I've lived it for over 60 years now. And so what I'm doing is being a blessing. And that's all I want to do. Nothing more. So,
Well, Ron, we appreciate you coming on. It's getting that time now. It's getting pretty late, so I hate doing it because this has been such a fun little conversation we've been having. But I'm getting a little tired.
hey, let me ask a question. AI Mike, you're the guy that's on Strange. Is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, now I know you.
I'm the strange one.
Okay, so I'm just kind of, I saw the name. I was like, I think that's AI Mike. I can see his name, but he's in chat. So now I know who you are. Good to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice.
Me and friend me on Facebook or whatever. Stay in contact.
Okay.
Seriously, brother, you're doing well.
I also wanted to say that Ron, you and Mike T, while I got it, I also want to thank you all for your service. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. No problem.
I didn't do much. But go ahead. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, Ron, you got anything coming up anytime soon as far as paranormal? Or?
My life has really changed a lot in the last 2 months, 3 months, and there's some things that I didn't talk about, but it's really affected me, and I can't say many bad ways, because anytime bad comes, I've learned that, like, what happened to Moses and David and others, that bad comes and good comes. And so I've kind of cut back, and I'm trying to reroute myself. But the next thing I have coming up that I know is going to be a ghost tour there at Fort Reno in October. I don't know the date yet. And then I'm going to do a speaking event at a public library in Edmond. And I think that's going to be like the Tuesday before Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to be in October. I'd have to go look at the date. And so Brian Terrell, he's going to speak there, I think, this next month. I'm going to go there for him because I'm not far. But that's the only thing I do. And I'm doing the admin stuff. Also, the chaplain for Scottish Rite Innkeepers. And so that's been a blessing in helping people. And you're with like-minded people like the people here. And we're all brothers. And so we talk about these things. And once it got out that I was an innkeeper and also a parapsychologist, paranormal investigator, researcher, investigator, whatever, people started approaching me and talking to me. And some people from Masonic lodges have called me because they have haunting activity and they don't know what to do. So I've had to, deal with some of those people and help them out. I didn't have to go there, but I would just give them friendly advice. So anybody that wants to contact me, you're welcome. Harold, list my email. If I list my pros ghost hunters, that one's on my pros site. So you can contact me there too, but you can give my short email. And I'm here to help anybody and any of you on this podcast right now, including you speakers. I love you all. If I can help you in any way whatsoever, I don't have the winning lottery ticket, so it might not be money, just saying. But if you need something from me that I can help you with, I will do it. I promise you that. And I don't care if you have my number or what. Send me a message to Facebook. I think if I were in chat, my YouTube username is Cert Instructor Ron, and it has the. Let me get it real quick. I'll show it to you. It has this sign on it. Let me turn it around right here. If you can see it, I don't know if you can see it or not. Right there. It has that on it for my badge.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay.
But any of you can reach me if I can help you. Let me know. So, but it's Cert Instructor Ron is my YouTube video.
Awesome. Okay. Mike, what about you? Mike Tony Casa. What do you got going up?
Well, I just got back from that Prospect Place estate. I'm working on getting all that put together, and just dropped that video I just filmed the other night over at Wood Hollow, which was I just got that on my channel yesterday or today. It just dropped at 6 today, which was pretty interesting. But Saturday I'm going to Middle Bass Island on Lake Erie. There's some group that the guy who owns Beale Manor, where we investigated, he invited me. There's some group. They're called Entity Hunters. I think they have like some Roku channel or something. But they're a group, and they asked me to join them for an investigation at some place out on Middle Bass Island. So I am going to go check that out. It sounded pretty interesting. So going to be doing that. And then other than that, it's just the usual grind. Me and the cameraman going around and just filming together, doing our thing.
Cool. Tell people how they can find you and.
If you just type in, I got the handle under my name here, MT Paranormal Life on YouTube. You can find me there.
Cool. AI Mike, what do you got going on?
Pretty much just Saturday we're going to do a daytime Boots on the Ground on our AI Seeking the Truth, and then Sunday the original Boots on the Ground that night. That's pretty much all I'm doing. I've been working on everybody wanted me to look into the Dennis Martin case again and to give my honest opinion about that. I don't know if Ron knows. I was an investigator, Ron, so I know where you're coming from, where you talk about following the facts and the truth and how hard that can be sometimes to take the human element out of it and what we want it to be compared to what it actually is. So that's just some of the things I'm working on. Pretty simple to find me. We're the abnormal people in the field.
Abnormal's normal.
Yeah. I like abnormal. Remember Young Spring son? Where'd you get the brain? Abnormal. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Jess, how about you? What do you got going on?
At this time, not a whole lot. I am looking at doing some changes, so I'll have to keep you posted.
Okay. I'll definitely let everybody know once you let me know. Randy?
I'm just supporting Mike, AI Mike, right now, helping him with his channel right now. I don't have my own channel.
It's all right. We tune in not just because of AI Mike.
Yeah.
We have some good input on the shows, and everybody looks
Oh,
forward to hearing.
I'm here basically seeking the truth, like a lot of people here. I'm not here to argue about this or that. Mainly to let the public know that there are monsters out there. They can kill you, especially if you don't know about it.
That's a fact.
There are real monsters out there. We've been lied to about the creatures living on this earth. There are a million other species besides humans on this earth, and a lot of them like to eat humans.
You always tell people you look at a snake and you got a little, garden snake, but then you got anacondas out there too and everything in between. And it doesn't affect you until you see one, And,
Yeah.
and people just don't believe until they encounter the big, ugly, dangerous ones,
Right.
And how many people who don't believe survive an encounter with these things? I mean, look at all the people going out of missing just in the United States alone. You take the total numbers of people, and that's a lot of people. They all can't be falling in holes and being eaten by lions.
Right.
They're going here.
Yeah. I'll just tell you this. I'm trained in search and rescue, and I've worked with canine, and I listen to Dave Politis quite a bit, and I know what searchers do and whatever. And, it's weird that they go out and you have to go out and through this certain area all the time. You have a starting point and go out from there. Sometimes you can get dropped off some other way and work toward that point. But typically it's going to be that point. And then a year or two later, they find their clothes and their bones and they know that they've been there 100 times before going out and nobody saw anything. And to me, that should be a big clue.
Yeah. Something abnormal's going on there.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody that showed up in the chat. Thanks for all your questions and your comments and for tuning in. And just a reminder, everybody will be back here next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central. Hopefully, we won't have the technical difficulties like we had this week. I'm probably going to have to stick with StreamYard.
It worked.
Yeah, because that was a long half hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that I didn't lose anybody in the chat, that it was able to, the stream was able to keep going that way. I didn't have to go all the way back into Facebook and post all this stuff. But yeah, Ron, it was a pleasure having you on, and hopefully we can have you on soon again, maybe with your brother. And you have to let David know that I did see him in backstage, but didn't have enough room to bring.
No, that's okay. He was there just to make sure that this was up and running so it could help you. And so Dave is my tech man with our 501c3 that we use for search and rescue. And he's also a fire chief, has been, and also a police officer in the past. And he loves to help people, and that's why he was there to help you and make sure that you got on.
Yeah, let him know that I appreciate him trying to help.
Yeah, if you need more help, let me know. I'll give you his number. So.
All right. Yeah, I'll let you know if I need any more help. Sure. So on that note, I want to say good night to everybody, and I'll see you on the go around.
All right, love you all. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, I
Nice
enjoyed
meeting you, Ron.
All right, you too. God bless. Shalom, shalom.
Yep. Good night. God bless.
Right, good night, everybody.
All right, good night.
So, like I said, next week, 8 o'clock Central, right here on YouTube. Till then, everybody stay safe and keep squatching. We'll see you then.